Day 4, number 79. With the man, Frank Scalish.
I don't know if I'm the man. I know
you are the man. Well, we went through that deal where you had Chuck Norris like comments about you, and then Kelby the Man Young said, "Let's go. Day 4 is my favorite. Frank, I know my name says I'm the man, but you are too."
Thanks, dude. I appreciate you, man. I'm having headphone issues right now.
Now it looks good. Sounds great. Shirt is absolutely popping this morning. We both have collars on. I was not sure what to wear, Frank, at 3 p.m. today at SNU, Southern Nazarene University press conference.
That's at 3 o'clock today.
Yeah.
I gotta watch that. I promised Mark I would watch that in lieu of everything I have going on. That's 3 o'clock your time, so that's 4 o'clock my time.
If you go to the SNU athletics page, look at this. That's the head page of SNU athletics.
Look at that guy. What a happy guy. He's a happy dude.
How about that?
I think that's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic.
I
promised him I would watch it, and then, of course, it's today, which all hell broke loose the last few weeks in my world. And I have a way lot of stuff to do today, like way too much.
But the good news for you is you should be on the water by the end of the week for the remainder of the season.
I should be on the water by tomorrow.
I don't want to get you in a bad mood. I don't want to rehash that. I do. I mean, I don't know how far we want to take this, but no, I got one more Jeffries thing.
Oh, do it.
Wait, this is just to get us in a good mood going into day 4 this morning. I'm gonna have to share it with system audio.
You share it, baby.
This is his promo video for the 2023 Crimson Storm bowling season.
Let her rip.
You want to see this? I know this has nothing to do with bobber crankbaits or anything, but it makes my heart smile. How about that?
That's fantastic. I have chills. I got chills. Goosebumps.
Oh, vintage Jeffries video. So that's why I've got the collared shirt on. Hold on. That's why I can't exit the screen. Jeffries put it in some sort of deal on this website where you just have to watch it.
Once it's like Hotel California. Once you get in,
Clay
you can
Williamson,
never leave.
yes, that is 1,000% a Jeffries edit. Oh, that's awesome.
Fantastic.
But all right, so major updates too. If you frequent the Bass Zone website, we finally have some new banners promoting the very budget friendly line of crankbaits that we talked about last week.
That's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable price point in today's market, and it was totally. I want to say by accident. It wasn't by accident because we were actually trying to trim the fat, no pun intended, fat-free shads. No pun intended, but it was 2.5, 3 years in the making, and we finally got everything in, better quality components, everything. And it came in right at a time when prices and everything are going through the roof. This came in, and it was kind of good timing. By accident, really. So take advantage of it because they're here and they're here to stay.
The next gen flat A's, fingerlings, guppies, 7As, 6As, 5As, 4As, deep diving,
right?
Flat A's. I think I got them all, but they're all up there in all the colors, all of your colors,
all my colors,
that you came up with. So check that out if you are a cranker or want to participate in anything that Frank has explained over the last month and a half. I really like how the shows have come together. Like how you've talked about the mapping, the locations, the seasons, and then the baits.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the plan. You know what I mean? We try to keep it seasonal. So there's going to be times, in the future where some things might seem repetitive, but we'll keep it fresh. We'll talk about new tricks, new tips, and we'll keep it fresh. There's some summertime techniques, especially August. The middle to the end of August through September. There's some really good techniques, and then I'm actually I'm going to do something for the Ohio River guys today. I think I'm gonna blow wide open a really well kept secret on the Ohio River.
Really?
Yeah, I have a lot of guys that DM me that fish that river all the time, and I
Mhm.
never give out, information like, go to this creek, hang a left, go to the next stump, there's a gravel bar. I
Yeah.
never give information like that out. But today I'm going to do something. I'm going to talk about a pattern that happens late in the year on the Ohio River, and I've had an insane success with it. That's going to fall into today's show. We're gonna talk about heavy metal today, guys, on this show. Um, well, we won't get into it immediately unless you want to,
Oh,
Matt.
what else you want to get into?
I don't know. Do we have anything else to talk about?
Obviously, what section of the Ohio are we talking? Because like I'm familiar
all of
with
it.
Golconda in like southern Illinois.
All of it. The
Really?
whole it happens on the whole river. Yeah, especially in the cold months. This is from um the end of October through pretty much most of the winter.
And this is the way to target the 13 and a half inchers instead of the 12 inchers. Anytime
Yeah,
I could get a
yeah,
shot in at the Ohio River
you take it.
or Kansas, I'm taking it.
Well, here, we're way off track. Not really, but the Ohio River, in my entire existence of growing up, okay, I am 2.5 hours away from the northern portion of the river, and as far as 5 hours away from the southern. Okay, like if I were to go to Portsmouth or beyond past Cincinnati, the Indiana border. So this river runs, through the entire state, and there's a lot of sections. Then as I go south, they get farther and farther away from me. So when I was younger, and I started fishing all the local tournaments, and then BFLs back in the day, they were called Redman.
Yep.
Um, the Ohio River used to kick my ever living ass. And I said, there is no possible way that this river is going to beat me anymore. So what I would do is I would take a section of that river, and then in my free time, I would go to that section of river and fish it till I understood it. And I worked my way all the way down this river system. Okay. So I knew which creeks were better on the main river, which parts of the river fish better up the creeks, what time of year to be up the creeks, what time of year to be on the main river. And then of course we had smallmouth, spotted bass, and largemouth. As the time progressed, the smallmouth started taking over the northern sections of the river. The spotted bass virtually went away, and the largemouth fishing is marginal at best. Okay. As you go down south, you get more into the largemouth fishing, and you start to get into some spotted bass fishing. But the spotted bass fishery has waned drastically from what it was when I was younger. When I was younger, we literally used to go there specifically to target spotted bass, and all that's changed. So this river system has cycles. It goes through cycles where you'll have 2 or 3 years where it fishes like garbage, and then you'll have 2 or 3 years where it starts to fish fantastic. It's always cycled through. Well, what's happening now is these guys on this river system have to understand something. You have wet, flooded spring, dirty water conditions most of the time. The grass doesn't grow. If you have a relatively calm spring, mild winter, the water cleans up, the grass comes back, and it changes that fishery consistently. But the little tip I'm going to get into at the end of the show for you guys that live on that river um, will hold true whether there's grass or not in the river.
In 1995, you fished 3 Redmans or BFLs on the Ohio River. One out of White Oak, one out of St. Mary's, and one out of Tanner.
Mm-hmm.
Top 50'd all of them. You actually had a 3rd place in the one out of St. Mary's.
Yeah, I was
this just sounds painful. Here are your weights.
Yeah, you're gonna hurt me, man.
Top 50 finish. As I said, this just shows how tough this fishery is. 3 fish, 3 pounds 10 ounces.
Yeah.
Your 3rd place finish, 3 fish, 6 pounds 1 ounce. And then your 39th place finish, 2 fish, 2 pounds 12 ounces.
Dude, what a machine. What a machine.
That is the epitome of a grind.
It is a grind, but there was other tournament trails down there that I fished also. OBTC for one, which was Ohio Bass Tournament Circuit Trail. Those guys that started it, I love those guys. There's other tournament trails, ABA, a bunch of other stuff that, so I spent a lot of time down there, and, it's a tough fishery, but it doesn't have to be. But it's a tough fishery. But I got tricks for you guys. Most assuredly, have tricks.
All right, you ready to get into?
Yes, I am.
The heavy metal.
If I had, it's not heavy metal.
I deleted all of Jeffrey's heavy metal. It's causing me anxiety.
Isn't that the truth?
So you think we've done a show? I don't remember a day 4. I might have been gone for it, but this is something that I'm extremely interested in because I have confidence in that lure now. We're talking heavy metal. We're talking how do you call them? Slab spoons.
No, jigging spoons.
Jigging spoons.
Yes,
I call them a slab spoon. What's the difference?
There is a spoon called a slab spoon, and I believe it's made by Bomber. It gets more play in the saltwater than anything. It's a great little spoon.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, it's more of a pill or oval shape. But we're talking about
like the Cordell CC spoon or the War Eagle jigging spoon.
5/8, 3/4 of an ounce, just a chunk of metal with a treble hook on it, a swivel on the top, and it's that. There you go, right there.
Okay, so we'll just go with this. This is a cotton Cordell CC spoon. Here, I'll show you what they look like. They come in that pack right there.
They look the same since what, the 50s?
There's been some slight modifications on them, but essentially it's the same spoon. There's other spoons out there. They're all jigging spoons. Same profile. Same profile. Same body shape essentially. So here's what I do. I add a split ring. I don't know if you could see this. Let me try this.
No, it looks good.
I add a split ring to the top, and then I do a crane swivel to the split ring. Now I'm going to explain why I do this. It gives the spoon a better fluttering action, both on the snap when you snap it up and when you control it as it falls. Okay, it has a total freedom of movement for the spoon. The other reason I do it is because this thing, when you snag it on the bottom or snag it into a treetop or something, now it acts like a plug knocker. So all you have to do if you snag a branch or if you snag the rocks, you just shake the rod tip like a slack line jiggle shake, and it'll dislodge itself. I could honestly tell you, I almost never lose a jigging spoon. Now, every now and then you're going to, because if you think you might have had one and you set the hook and you bury it in, you're going to probably lose it. But if you like a big technique, I'm getting way ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But they're very retrievable. Okay. And the split ring and the crane swivel help make this act more like a plug knocker. So it knocks itself free from whatever it's stuck into, unless it's a rope. but you know what I mean? But it's pretty snag resistant. So anyway, so let's go back to the ranch. Let me explain to you. A lot of people use this in colder water applications, which is absolutely right. You do. You get right over top of the fish. This is a jigging spoon, so it's vertical. You're right over top of the fish with this. You're fishing straight down, right underneath your 2D sonar. Okay. Flutter spoons, on the other hand, the big, the big flat flutter spoon type stuff, those are for horizontal presentations. You don't really vertical jig with a flutter spoon. Okay. You cast it out, it falls through suspending fish, you pump it, and you never let that spoon actually get to the bottom. Those are the two main differences between a flutter spoon and a jigging spoon. Okay. So here's what happens. Let's talk about. We're going to talk about some movements, some baitfish movements, and some transitional stuff right now. As summer goes towards the end, okay, you have a massive baitfish migration, as you know from previous shows on threadfins, gizzards, and bluebacks. Once the water starts to dip, days get shorter, they start to migrate to the backs of creeks and pockets. Okay. Prior to this mass migration, these fish start to stage up and they start to come together in massive, massive schools on the main lake. Okay. Then all of a sudden you see the stripers. They're popping them everywhere. There's striper activity all over the place if you got stripers in your lake, because these massive schools of baitfish are coming together. Well, here's what they're doing. They're getting together in mass and they're starting to move towards the creek mouths. Okay. The deep, defined creek mouths. They're starting to move together there. They're going to hang out on the main lake side of these creek mouths, but they're going to hang there for a while. They're going to get into they're going to get some mass behind them, and then they'll start running up those creeks. This is when the jigging spoon is absolutely psychotic. Kerr Reservoir was the first time I really experienced this well. The mouths of some of the major creeks had balls of shad. When you would drive over them, half your locator would be black. That's how many baitfish there were in these things. Well, if you look at your 2D sonar, when you go over huge, massive pods of baitfish, you can see hard streaks underneath them. Might be brighter red, might be bright yellow and green, whatever you have your right. That's from the video.
That is not 2D. That is actually a Frank Scalish drawing.
That is 1D. And look, I had to make sure there was no misspelled words on there.
I was waiting for it. That is what you're talking about right now, is what it looks like on the 2D, right?
That's exactly what it looks like. And so what happens is you drop your spoon below the baitfish, but above the bass. Okay. And then
so in this area, then
right where the pen tip is, is where you want that spoon to be, because the bass are feeding up. Okay. Well, the baitfish are all balled up. They're tight, safety in numbers. The bass are milling around underneath them. All right. When your spoon falls between the gap between the bass and the baitfish, they think it's a dead or a dying, injured shad or whatever, and it becomes an easy meal and they pick it off. Okay. This is what you're going to look for. Now, what I do when I fish the spoon is there's a couple of techniques I use. The first one, I do about a 1 to 2 foot pump with the rod tip. And then as it's falling, you keep a controlled drop on it. You let your rod go down with the spoon, but you're going to have a bow in your line. If you don't have the bow in the line, the spoon's tight. The spoon is tight to your line. If you don't have that bow, the spoon's tight to your line, and all you're doing is making the spoon go down. If you have the bow in your line, the spoon is this way, falling and fluttering as it falls. All right. That's how you know your spoon's fluttering the right way. You have to have that bow in your line on a controlled drop. You let it go down. You just keep your rod tip going down. You'll have a little bow in your line, and good to go. And so what I do is I do a small pump, let it go down a little bit. It gets halfway to where my line's going to get straight. And then I do a quick little double pump where I go like that, a double pump. And then I let it go back down. All right. This is how I fish over suspended bass. It really triggers the bites. And you have to pay attention. I'm watching my locator the whole time. I can see my spoon on the locator. I can see the bass on the locator and the bait fish. It's no different than forward facing sonar, except it's 2D. I see the fish streak up to get the spoon. You see everything live. It happens right underneath your trolling motor. Now here, let me show you something else, because I want to clear this up too. This is going to be a really crude, quick illustration.
Those are the best.
I got to find my, here it is. So you have on your screen, I'm drawing the screen.
Your graph up front. You're standing up front. You've got your graph on 2D.
Right. It's on 2D. So here's the screen. Okay. So now what I do is I set, there's a bar on the side that you can set.
You're running Lorraine's, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the bar on the side.
That's
okay.
better than I could have done in half an hour.
Okay. So this will show you, this shows you fish, your lure, everything. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now here's the important thing to remember. This bar is real time. As you start to transgress across your screen, you're farther and farther away from the fish. So what you want to focus on is this area right here. So when I look at my locator and I'm spooning, that's the only area I'm looking at on the graph, is right there, because this is real time.
If you're listening on iTunes, that's the first half inch on the right hand side of the screen.
Right,
correct?
by the buttons.
By the buttons. It's like almost looks like it's a little bit different than the rest of the screen. So as you see your arches as it progresses and stuff, that's fish that you've gone over that are in
Correct.
the past that are back. So instead of looking at the entire screen, just look at that first quarter of the right hand side as it appears on the screen, as it's scrolling from right to left.
Right.
And that's what Frank is talking about.
So this bar right here, and I don't remember the name of
right
it,
on it,
but this bar right here, that's real time. So as you get to right here, you're still on top of the fish. As you get to here, the fish are now, you're far away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's why the further out you get, also the more angle it looks like you have on your line as it goes down.
Correct. And so this is what it's going to look like when you're spooning on the graph. That's what your spoon marks are going to look like on the graph. They're going to be at an angle because your screen is moving, and it's going to be at an angle. And the bass are going to take the same angle when you see them coming up to get your spoon. It's going to be the same angle. You're not going to have an arc coming up to get your spoon. You're going to have just a streak of a line coming up to get your spoon. Okay, so this is important to know. So here's another thing. So on jigging spoons, one of my favorite places to fish them, and you know from the last couple shows ago, standing submerged treetops. It's fantastic for spooning. The spoon, even if you tangle in the branches, like I said, all you have to do is exactly right there. That's a brush pile illustration. And so even if you snag into the brush pile, you just shake the spoon loosely and it'll dislodge itself from the brush pile, and then slowly lift it up out of the brush pile till you clear the top of it. Now, 2D sonar, you're going to see when the spoon clears the top of it. You're going to see the spoon on your 2D sonar. Okay. So you'll know you're cleared the top of it, and then you can start pumping it up, and whatever fish is in that bush will come up and get that spoon. Standing timber, exactly the same way. Now, rock piles are a little different. So here's what I do on a rock pile, especially the Great Lakes. If I'm smallmouth fishing on Lake Erie, I'm checking my phone to see exactly where Federal Express is. Okay. So
Oh yeah,
if
you're
I'm
anxiously awaiting a large
anxiously awaiting, so
component to the motor.
a very large one. So when I'm fishing rock piles or hard bottom areas on the Great Lakes, even spotted bass fisheries, if I see the bass on the bottom and some suspending above the rock pile, because a lot of times you'll just have a mishmash. It'll look like spaghetti down
Hmm.
there. That's a lot of fish in that cone of yours. Okay. So what I'll do is I do a technique that I learned actually from ice fishing for walleyes, where it's called pounding the bottom. You let the spoon slam into the bottom. It slams into the bottom. It slams into the bottom, and it creates a dust cloud. When it hits the bottom, the debris down there, the dust comes up, and then you pump it up above the dust cloud. What that does is that looks like an injured shad, a dying shad. Or if you remember in the shad episode where I mentioned that gizzard shad actually feed on detritus on the bottom 13% of their life. So they're nose down, milling around in that muck on the bottom. All right. This is a perfect imitator of that. You slam it down there, this cloud comes up, you pump it up, you slam it down there. Perfect imitator. Okay. Smallies can't stand it. Spotted bass can't stand it. It's a fantastic technique. So now we know a couple things. We know we're concentrating on creek mouths, but on the main lake. Now, this technique will transfer into the beginning of the creek mouths. As the bait starts to move in mass, you can move into the beginning of the creek mouths with them. Okay. Now, once they get into the creeks, they're going to start shooting up to the bank and start doing their fall behavior. And then you're talking about a whole bunch of different lures. So this is the end of summertime, and it happens here a lot because our bait and our bass start to suspend towards the end of August. And then your traditional structure fishing is hit or miss. Your bottom bouncing stuff like Carolina rigs,
Hmm.
football jigs, deep diving crankbaits, hit or miss. So when the bass are suspending, I run my crankbaits above them, not ever touching the bottom with the crankbait, or I get right on top of them and I spoon fish them. Don't be afraid. Standing timber is this is deadly on standing timber. Deadly. I was actually fishing on Smith Lake in Alabama, and I wound up, first time I ever saw the lake, I wound up finding these deep brush piles. And when I realized I didn't have to get up on the front deck and throw a shaky head on them or a drop shot, I just sat in my driver's seat, idled right on top of the deep brush pile, dropped my spoon over the side of the boat, pump it a couple times, boom, I'd get one, reel them in, let them go, waypoint the brush pile, and look for more.
Hmm.
I spent the whole day practicing that way. I never hardly got out of my driver's seat on the boat. That's how good this technique can be. So it's something that if you ever get in my bass boat, you're always going to see my spoons, my jigging spoons in the boat. I never don't have them. I never not have them in the boat. Just because if I have the right condition, I'm throwing them on them, especially if I'm smallmouth fishing. If I'm on any smallmouth fishery, I have one tied on at all times.
Is the spoon bite in the summertime a feeding bite or a reaction bite, or is it based on when and how they hit it to determine whether or not those fish are keying on it, or whether it's boom reaction and you hook them? How can you tell whether they're eating it or whether you have to aggressively force a reaction from those fish?
Well, that's the whole thing with the cadence of how you work the spoon.
Okay.
That's going to tell you everything. Most of the time, it's a pretty aggressive bite. I haven't had a spoon instance where I didn't know the fish smoked the thing. I just haven't. Colder months, little different. In the colder months, you'll go to, give a little jerk on the spoon, and all of a sudden your rod's loaded up. That fish was already on it. I get a lot of bites on the fall as it's falling, so I'm constantly watching my line, and I got my finger on my line. I never take my finger off my line, and sometimes you'll just feel it. it's like a worm bite almost. It just goes don't, and you're still dropping the bait. You don't feel the fish go kabam. You know what I mean? You just feel that little donk, and then I crack them. Now here's another thing I do. Because I'm looking at the one spoon. I replaced the rear treble hook on my 3/4 ounce spoons with a number 2 Gamakatsu round bend. And here's why. I've seen instances on dozens of occasions where you've got fish slashing at your spoon as you're pumping it up and it's fluttering down and you're pumping it up. The spoon's going wild. It's doing crazy things. Perfect. So the spoon's doing crazy things. Okay. So if you go to like a triple grip hook style or something, you're going to miss a lot of fish because what happens is sometimes they bang into the spoon. They just bang it. And if they bang it with the round bend, most of the time you wind up snagging them in the face because they pop at the spoon and you'll have the hook on the outside of their face. With the triple grip, they have to eat it for you to really get a hook in them. Now, if you get a hook in them with the triple grip, you're not losing them. But I don't lose them on the Gami round bend either. I'll tell you what happens. When they bite that spoon, it pins their mouth shut because you got the one treble in the bottom of their jaw and one in the top of their jaw. Their mouth is pinned shut. So this is the other thing. When I fish the spoon, I'm fishing it on a 7.5 foot medium heavy rod, and I'm using 17-pound fluoro. And I do this because I always throw the 3/4 ounce spoon. I almost never throw any other size except for the 3/4 ounce because I want the spoon to get down where it's got to be. I want to have full control over the spoon. If you use a lighter spoon, you have to go lighter in line size because you have to have that spoon fall to get to where the fish are. So I just kind of keep it really simple. 17 fluoro, 3/4 ounce spoon, I'm good to go. And I throw the 3/4 ounce almost everywhere I spoon fish. Doesn't matter if I'm on a reservoir, if I'm on Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, it doesn't matter what. I'm using it. That's my setup. And so I don't even worry about it. When I hook the fish, I boat flip them all. And the same thing with the smallmouth. I boat flip every smallmouth that I catch on the spoon. I don't even monkey around because their mouth is literally pinned shut. So it's a fantastic technique, guys, and it's so grossly overlooked. It's so overlooked.
And never a feather trouble.
You know, when I was younger, I used to tie my feather trebles on the spoon, and then what I wound up doing, I kind of got away from it because I couldn't see a difference. Like you couldn't prove to me that one was getting more bites over the other. You're fishing it fairly aggressively. The fish are reacting to it. I just haven't seen where it's that much of a difference. I have tied just like, 6 strands of crystal flash on the back of a hook and no feathers. But like I said, you can't prove to me one's better than the other with the spoon. So I don't even monkey with it.
Personal question on this.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest pet peeve, especially when I'm vertically jigging aggressively, you mentioned how it's important to have a bow in your line.
Right.
A lot of times, everything's fine and dandy, and then all of a sudden you pull and it goes woo, 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 when you pull up, and now you've got your treble hook wrapped around your main line.
Right. So what I'll do is I'll hold the rod like in my hand like this, the reel's over here, and then I'll hit the bottom of the rod handle. Okay. So I'll hit the bottom of the rod handle. I'll hold it like this, the reel's up here. I hit the bottom of the rod, boom, 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 and the rod jolts a little bit. A lot of times I could free it up that way.
Okay.
The best way to tell is start lifting it. If you get that, brrr, you're still tangled. So then you got to reel it in and undo it.
And in my opinion, it's important to reel it in slowly then because now your swivel is not acting, your crane swivel is not acting like a crane swivel to counteract line twist with it. So now you are twisting your line, and that's where when you set your rod down, it goes bloop around the tip of your rod.
Correct. Absolutely correct. So, I mean, it's like any technique there, you have to know how to do it. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just like any technique, but I'll be honest with you guys. Um, if you don't have spoons in your boat, jigging spoons in your boat, you're missing out because there's times when that is absolutely on fire. I've caught jig and spoon fish on virtually every reservoir across the country that I've been on, and it's money. Um, Kerr, Table Rock, Amistad, it's just crazy how good it is, and it's you have to know when to fish it. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to go out there and
Go out
do
there and
that
start
during the spawn.
pumping a jigging spoon randomly.
Yeah, I mean, you're just not going to do that. So I guess I could tell you the trick for the Ohio River.
Well, I got some more spoon questions.
Mm,
Unless we're done with that.
no, we're not done, dude. I
All
need
right.
questions.
So this is
God,
if you
have
guys have any spoon questions to do it, like you said, you always use fluoro on it
always.
as sinks. Painted spoons, gold and silver. So I know the guys in the Ozarks swear by some painted. If
Hmm.
you see there's okay, I would say there's pink, there's white in chartreuse, there's gold, and there's
Correct.
silver. I would say those are the 5 common colors of jigging spoons. If you're going
Sure.
to put a box together, in general, are there any regions where specific colors, or when do you go with a painted one, or do you just stick with the hammered silver all the time?
90% of the time I'm on hammered silver. Although I've seen instances where spotted bass and smallmouth will prefer white, maybe white with a gray back or white with a chartreuse back. I've seen some instances where gold will outperform them. Basically, some of the in my early days smallmouth fishing with it, I always went to gold because I thought gold was the be all to end all. But then I realized that I'm catching them the same as I am on silver and gold because I would have two tied on. If I got tangled up with one, I just pick up the other one and dump it down there. If I break off, if I break off on a zebra mussel or whatever, then I'll just drop the other one down there. So it got to the point where I said, well, okay, I'll have, my jigging spoon box, I have 10 gold ones, 5 white ones of white and a back color, and then 20 silver because that's my go-to color. Silver is my go-to color. It doesn't make it right or wrong, and it doesn't mean that your go-to color won't be something else because it can be based on whatever lake you're on. It can be.
Okay. I might have been distracted taking care of bot comments, which have been a lovely addition for the last couple months to the show.
Isn't that great?
It's fantastic.
Isn't that how you know you made it
You
when
know
the
what the
robots
crazy
come
thing
out and
about the
get you?
bot comments is? If it didn't work at all, they wouldn't do it, right? So the fact that they're still doing it means someone's clicking on that.
100%.
Yes, like someone's, yes, I would like to see my naughty neighbor. Click. Fishing just took a back seat.
Yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
did you get into rod power and length and action on that? Because that's to me, seems very important. And I struggle with, do I want something with a lot of tip that I can fight? Do I want something that's super stiff, that's easier to pop it with? What rod length and action are you going with
I,
when you're popping a spoon?
okay, I'm gonna say go. You're gonna go over 7 foot. I usually do it on a 7.6, medium heavy. I'm not too concerned with the way I'm gonna fight the fish. I'm more concerned what it does to my spoon. If your rod is too soft and too parabolic, it over exaggerates a lot. You lose some feel and you wind up burying it into the wood a lot. You bury it in the treetops, you bury it in the brush piles.
Okay.
So I want a little more sensitivity out of the graphite blank, but I want a little tip forgiveness in it too because that's what makes your spoon dart and shoot, dart and shoot. But the 7.5 foot is critical to me for two reasons. You're usually fishing fairly deep. I want leverage. Okay. And when I get the fish to the boat, I can handle them better because I got the leverage of the rod. I can just boat flip them real easy. I used to use shorter rods to stay close to the gunnel of the boat because I thought that was better. The only hard thing with the 7.5 foot rod is keeping it in your cone. You may have to stand a step back from your trolling motor. You're not going to be like you're flipping when you're standing right on your trolling motor practically. You got to take a step back because you need to have that spoon in your cone angle at all times so you see what it's doing down there. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's simple. It's a simple technique. It's just here, look, here's what it's going to take. It's going to take the time to actually set aside and do it. And once you start to experience some success with it, you'll start to understand right away when it's applicable, when it's not applicable.
This is not, this is my experience. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it took me a long time to get comfortable spoon fishing because this is not a type of deal where you just go out with a spoon, you go to your spot and you start fishing with it. This is a technique where you have located the fish and they're in that awkward late summer phase where there's no other lure that can really effectively target them and stay in that zone, and they're feeding on those threadfin or small gizzard shad
usually
that are about the
2
size
and
of
a
a
half.
spoon.
Yeah. Usually
It's
about 2.5.
it's best when it's awkward. So like there's a lake in Oklahoma that I got them on really good in the summertime, and I would drive over the basin to get into any big giant point, that the main point that connects a couple creeks,
Right.
and you'd see them out there suspended over 30 to 40 foot of water, over 50 foot, and you'd see the bait. And I'll tell you how I got it. I saw guys out there in old boats, guys sitting on the front going like that, and I'm like, well, I mean, that's old timer, that's locals right there.
Exactly.
So I did not go in on them, but I went back and got my winter slab spoon or jigging spoon boxes, the 7/8, and went back out there and found them. And the first couple that I caught were channel cats. And I'm like, cool. Then the next couple that I caught, then I caught some white bass. Then I caught some crappie. And then I saw it on the 2D where it looked, really good returns, largemouth.
Yep.
And every time you found that ball of bait on the screen, it looked just like that paper and it was. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, that is really the only technique you could use to target those fish. You can't crank them. The only thing you could do is maybe throw a paddle tail swim bait on a heavier jig head down to them. But to get that bait down there, to get it through them, very ineffective, especially with how the arc of that bait goes. Man, you can drop a jigging spoon down. You're down there in 3 seconds. Pop, pop. It creates a reaction strike, and you can catch them boom, boom, boom after you get them fired up. But the hardest part is finding that scenario.
That's true. And that's the truth. And that's what I mean. When you recognize it, when you do it and you find them and you have success and you recognize that, you won the game, because now you know exactly what you're looking for and you can go look for it. Like here on Douglas one time, the first time I was on Douglas, I got over a school of bait and bass that was mind-boggling. My whole entire graph was black. I couldn't even differentiate anything, and I thought the unit went out on me.
We call that a National Geographic graph.
Yeah, dude, I thought the unit went out on me. So I was like, what the heck? Well, as I was drifting, because I was still sitting in my driver's seat, as I was drifting, I saw breaks in it, openings. And I'm like, oh my God, that's all bait. Well, I just grabbed my spoon and dropped it right over the side of the boat. It never even touched the bottom. It was sinking and it just kept on going. I locked up, boom, I got a 4-pounder. I'm like, holy smokes, I did it again. Boom, I got another one. So then I grabbed my flutter spoon and I fired my flutter spoon out there. Boom, I got another one. And I was like, oh my God, this is the mother lode. This is going to be the best tournament in the world. Well, when I went back there the first day of the tournament, there was not a bait fish or a bass near that channel. I couldn't find them again. They moved. Well, what I found out was they were pulling water like mad during practice. And when the tournament came, they quit pulling water. All those fish dispersed, and I could never find them again. And so I wound up having to go. I had a secondary flipping pattern, and I had to go catch flipping fish, and took me right out of the game. I was right out of the money at that point, because everything fell apart on me. Even my Carolina rig fish fell apart on me, and so but it was wild in practice. For 2 days in practice, I could go virtually anywhere that was similar in makeup and duplicate it. And I was just like, I couldn't wait for this tournament to happen. And then in the tournament, it was just like Deadsville. And I knew immediately when I went there that I was done. And so I didn't waste a whole lot of time. I checked 4 places. All 4 places were empty. Went to a couple Carolina rig spots, caught a few, nothing to write home about, ran to my flipping fish, and called all day, but never big enough to matter. You know what I mean? It was just one of those deals.
It's a simple bait, and at least for me, it took me a long time to get confidence in it because it doesn't wiggle, it doesn't move.
No.
It's literally a piece of lead. But
Right.
so I'll explain how I got confidence. I'm going to show this. I think I'm allowed. Whatever. I'm going to show what gave me confidence in it. Is I wanted to see like what makes the bass react to this, right? Like I said, it's that and its reaction, but it doesn't. So, like I said, we didn't plan this, but I want you guys to watch this video. It's been out for forever. There's no audio to it. But this is bass underwater with minnows that are very close to the size of like a 7/8 ounce jigging spoon. And watch how the minnows change direction rapidly like a jigging spoon using the cadence that Frank talked about earlier. Look at those minnows. See them darting and turning? Especially like back here. Watch. See them? Look at that.
Yeah,
see how they're darting and turning right there? It looks just like a jigging spoon.
100%. It's perfect. Because bass are predatory, that spoon looks frightened or injured, they hit it. I mean, it's really I've been fishing the spoon way longer than it ever became popular because being on Lake Erie, I really cut my teeth on it on smallmouth.
Trent Webb wants to know, does overcast weather help this bite? Cloud cover, light wind, what's ideal for you?
It doesn't matter for me as long as the fish are where they're supposed to be doing what they're supposed to be doing. If I see the fish down there and they're suspending under bait, or if I see them on, rock piles suspending above the rock pile, I don't care what the weather's doing.
Bill would like to know, what is there a time you use blade baits instead of spoons, especially in that late summertime, or is it always a spoon?
I'm always on the spoon in the summer. I don't really go to my blade baits until the water temperature gets right around, say below 45 degrees. Then I'm fishing blade baits. I'm actually fishing my blade baits almost like a Carolina rig at that point. I'm keeping them sweeping, yo-yoing them and sweeping them very slow.
This stuff works on natural lakes too. It's not just like man-made southern lakes. He wants to know shallow glacial lakes in upstate New York.
Yeah, absolutely. The spoon is deadly. Anywhere you have smallmouth, the spoon can be deadly. Now, here's something I'm going to tell you guys. If you're fishing in a true grass fishery, where your structure bite is only predicated on grass, you need to find the deepest grass you could find, and you need to find edges, hard edges. And you go down along those edges where the rock meets the grass. That's how the spoon's going to be effective in those lakes, unless you have basin areas where they suspend at. There's a couple of lakes that I fish, not quite in New York, more in the Pennsylvania area, where these bass will suspend in the basins, and they're true grass lakes, but they'll suspend in the basins.
Big winds, little boat, no spot lock. Does this work, or is that better off dragging a D shot, Uncle Frank?
Well, the thing is you're going to need drift socks. You got to slow the boat way down, and then you're going to go to a 1 ounce spoon. That's, in the beginning days of my Lake Erie events, we didn't have spot lock either. I had 1,000,000 drift socks. Well, not 1,000,000. I had three drift socks. I'd slow the boat down to about half a mile an hour or 0.07, and then I would get a 1 ounce jigging spoon. Now, the problem with that is you're never in your cone.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So
just feel.
what you have to do at that point is you watch your locator. You know how fast you're moving. So as you come over these schools of fish, you kind of have an idea where you're at. So you know, like you come over it and you go, okay, in about a second, we're going to catch one, and then boom, and then you get them, and then you have to go back up from that school and drift back over them. That's how you do it without spot lock.
Does this stuff work in current, heavy current, river, stuff like that, or is it more since it's
Oh
a
no,
vertical presentation?
no, it works. It
Really?
works in the river systems. Hudson River, the Hudson River, the Mississippi River, the Ohio River. Here it comes, guys. These fish, especially in the winter months, will migrate to the deepest creek mouths they can find, and they winter in them. And depending on where you're at, like in the Hudson River, there'll be thousands of them wintering in creek mouths. And you can go there with a jigging spoon and plow them all day nonstop. That's their wintering home. Fish from 2 miles around will concentrate into those river mouths. Same thing on the Mississippi. All big river systems do it. The thing with the Ohio River is the creek mouths aren't that big, and there's not that many bass. But that's the secret. I fish the bars on the mouths of the creeks on the Ohio River starting in October through December. And I Carolina rig them and spoon them all winter long. It's fantastic technique. Now, these guys are going to hate my guts because I said
That's
that.
the deal. Biggest question, most important question: water clarity. I deal with this a lot in Oklahoma.
Yes.
Turbidity, lake turnover.
Bad news.
There has to be some clarity in your fishery for this to be maximum effective, correct?
There has to be. Absolutely has to be. So here's the thing, okay? As you know, if you can see 3 feet down, the bass can see 3 times that distance.
Oh, is that the general rule of thumb? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So if you can see a foot, they can see 3, 9, 5, 15.
So here, what happens is if we'll go with a foot.
Okay.
If you could see a foot, they can see 3 feet in any direction. So that means they got 6 foot of visibility from where they're at. 3 to the right, 3 to the left. You follow me?
Oh, because each one is independent, each eye.
Correct.
Okay.
3 to the right, 3 to the left. You follow me?
Yep.
So if you've got 4 to 5 foot visibility, you're talking about 15 feet visibility.
You're talking about 30 then, right? If they can see.
So they got 15 on one side, 15 on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why that's
feet on either side.
Right. So that's when it becomes very effective.
Okay.
Because they can see it. It's a sight thing. Yes, they'll feel it with their lateral line for sure. But in dirty water, you literally their strike window goes.
Yeah, I put it up. I've never caught them in dirty water on a jigging spoon. Never. Not once that I can remember.
No, you'll snag stripers and you'll snag catfish. But yeah.
I mean, that's key. Like, I don't even throw it. Do you even tie it on? Like, if you get there and it's...
No. If it's filthy, muddy water, I go right to the bank.
Yeah.
Because that's the only chance you got.
All right, so this is more of a blueback thing, and you love bluebacks. And the herring lake, smallmouth lake.
Well, Cisco's and alewives and stuff like that.
We've talked about vertical presentations.
Mm-hmm.
I probably 2 of my top 10 fish catching days ever have been bombing a 1/2 ounce jigging spoon as far as I can and fishing it like a Zara spook on top.
Yeah,
in the late summer, early fall for bass that are feeding on tiny shad,
mm-hmm.
and just reeling it as fast as I can across the surface where it skips, where they won't eat a pop bar, where they won't eat a spook, where they will barely eat a little swim bait. And there's something about that spoon and covering water across points where they're schooling that those fish will go nuts on it. It's totally off the wall.
Yeah, I've seen that too, to be honest with you, but I don't really play that game too much.
Yeah, there's one
I
lake
just
in
don't.
Oklahoma that we've caught over 200 a day doing it.
That's a good day, dude.
Yeah, it was
those are
nuts. They never
crazy
stopped
days.
schooling.
Yeah,
But like I
those are
said, that's a
crazy days.
very rare thing. But
It
like
is.
Bass Nation Championship on Hartwell in 17,
Mhm.
5.5 pounder using the Abu Garcia, what's the red one? The Rocket. Reel it a 7/8 ounce spoon across a point as fast as I can. 5 pounder comes up. I keep reeling. Finally
And then
gets
all
it.
of a sudden,
Yeah. Like Coegler was going nuts. He's
that's
like,
fantastic.
you're fishing a jigging spoon as a topwater.
You're honking it then too.
Oh, yeah, spooling it. That was the whole reason I had it on because you
Mhm.
know how they come up a billion miles away.
Oh yeah, you're honking it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I throw homemade bucktails on them when that happens.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I put a bucktail on, I launch that thing out there, and I twitch it and jerk it and keep moving it, man.
Oh, that's a good idea. I
Yeah.
need some of those for the Open in Hartwell in the
Yeah.
fall. Because everyone
might-
else will be throwing chrome. You know, if it ain't chrome, leave it at home.
Oh yeah, no, I tie bucktails, graybacks, blackbacks, greenbacks. Oh yeah.
Really nice synopsis of this entire show, which I thought was a very educational show. It's a very simple bait that is.
Yeah, and here, look, LureNet YouTube. I got a spoon, jigging spoon video out right now. It'll take what we just said here, condense it for you, put it in chronological order. It'll be really easy to follow because sometimes when we're live, we jump back and forth. We go all over the place.
So that's $4.29 for 2, right?
Correct.
So you can literally have your jigging box set up for $50 and be good for most of the year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Pack of crane swivels.
And if I'm not mistaken, the gold might be a couple cents more than the silver. I could be wrong in that, but
it says $4.29.
Oh, okay, cool. What's silver?
The big one, silver, $4.29.
Okay,
the
so
3-inch, $4.29. Gold is only available in the 2 and 2 1/8 inch.
Yeah, I traditionally
which
stick
is half
with
ounce.
Yeah, I traditionally stick with the 3/4.
Dude, you can find these at like
they're
academies
everywhere.
and
they're
Walmarts
everywhere.
and all that stuff.
They're everywhere.
Also, so how do you keep? So my spoon box, I struggle with rust and dust in my spoon box, and I've noticed a lot of guys that I've been in the boat with too. Since it's typically a box that doesn't get opened except for specific things. You know what I mean? It's not like you're constantly in and out of your square bill box all year or jerkbait box. How do you keep your jigging spoons and the components clean and shiny?
No hooks. I don't have hooks on them. I put hooks on them when I'm going to use them. For one, hook savers for another. You know those things we talked about, like in the pill boxes that keep the moisture out?
Yeah.
I put those in my spoon box too. But most of the time I don't store them with hooks on them.
Okay.
And I don't put them in wet. I don't put them back wet.
Is it very important? Because I know a lot of us will have them. They lose their luster, Uncle Frank. They're not as shiny or as pretty as they were. Do you think that lack of flash affects the bite?
The CC spoon's pretty durable. It doesn't get too dulled up. I have Hopkins spoons. They'll get tarnished really bad. And then you got to clean them up. So the CC spoon, though, pretty much doesn't get, for some reason, it doesn't get as dull and tarnished as some of the other spoons out there. But hell, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, you know, I'm not going to sit there and buff up a spoon when I'm on the lake. You know, I grab it, tie it on, and catch fish on it.
I love talking complexities and simple baits, whether it's a dinger, whether it's a
Yeah.
jigging spoon. It's amazing, over the years, baits that have not changed in a long time, how effective they still remain, and they're all the simple baits that
Right.
focus on the predatory instinct of a bass.
And
They'll always be good.
it's so basic. I
Yeah.
mean, think about how basic it is. It's so basic, dude. But it's just, it has all the triggering characteristics, and it has a specific way to fish it. There's really not too many alternate ways to fish it. It's very specific. The conditions are specific, and it's always successful under those conditions. I always catch them on it. I took a lot of big checks on Lake Erie doing nothing but spoon fishing.
So that's kind of Lake Erie secret then, huh?
Well, what happened was, yeah, I mean, I grew up doing it, so to me, it was never a secret. But what happened was, I wound up drawing out in a draw tournament with Steve Clapper, who's
Ooh.
probably one of the best smallmouth fisheries on the lake. Okay, I mean, he's one of the best smallmouth
He's an
guys
icon.
Yeah, he's the dude, and he's one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And he still fishes today, and he's still winning tournaments out there today. And he's up there in age. So anyway, I wound up fishing with Steve, and of course I wasn't going to fight him on the coin toss for boats. Okay? Because if you draw out with Steve, you just go in his boat. That's just what you do.
Yeah, he's the best one of best that's ever done it.
Right. So I draw with Steve, and we're out there, and we had some pretty rough conditions, and we were catching them doing a number of things. Grubs, we were actually catching a lot on grubs, jerk baits in certain places, and we were sitting on this one area, and he was swimming a grub, and I said, "Hey, Steve, where's your back transducer on this boat?" He goes, "Oh, you're about standing right on top of it." I go, "Oh, cool." I grab my spoon rod. I see a bass come up. I grab my spoon rod. I drop it down. I see that bass streak up, and I'm like, boom, I got him, and it's a 4-pounder. Well, I have 17-pound fluoro, blah, blah, blah. I'm winching that thing. Well, at the time, I think I had I had mono, because I don't think fluorocarbon was big then. So I'm winching this thing up, and he's like, "You need the net, you need the net." I go, "No, dude, I got it." And I boat flip this big bass. He goes, "Dude, you're out of your mind." I go, "Oh, no, dude, you ain't losing them like this." So about 10 minutes later, I see another one come on. I grab my spoon, drop it down, boom, get another one. At the end of the day, he goes, "Scalish, you're going to have to show me and tell me exactly what you were doing out there." He goes, "Because I think you just won this tournament." And so I did. I showed him everything, and that's how Steve and I became friends, actually. We became friends after that.
He has 39 top 10s on the Great Lakes, a lot of them out of St. Clair. And a lot of those out of St. Clair when he would run to Erie, correct? Back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
39 top 10s. Top 10s. 8 wins. 8 BFL wins.
Yeah. He's twisted.
Is he still fishing?
Yeah. He's still fishing. He's still winning them too, by the way.
How old is he?
I think he's 70, mid to late 70s.
I was gonna say he fished one on the Detroit River in 21. He finished 12th. I mean, dude, he has had like absolutely crazy years. So like 2016, he blew away the points. His BFL finishes were 3rd, 7th, 8th, 6th, and 7th.
Yeah,
all on the St. Clair out of Detroit River.
Yeah. He is. And here, let me tell you about this guy. He is as calm could be. We're jerkbait fishing on the mainland of Ohio, and we're far from Sandusky. Okay. He just looks at me. He goes, "Well, we got to make a little run." I go, "Cool. Where are we going?" He goes, "Peely." I go, "Okay." You know what I mean? Okay. We're going to truck all the way across the lake from where we were at. We were so far away from Peely, it was sickening. And he just goes. Doesn't care. It was rough as shit out. He just goes. takes his time. He goes, he gets there, does what he just, nothing rattles him. He is one of the greatest. He's one of the greatest dudes I've met in a while. I mean, he's a great guy.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
What else you got?
Well, I know I don't got a lower unit yet.
That's any moment, right?
Yeah, it should be.
Any moment. You're like
moment.
a kid on Christmas. You're opening the front living room blinds, peeking out of them, looking left, looking right, waiting for the
right, but Matt,
lower unit to show up.
There's one difference between a kid at Christmas and my lower unit.
Kids don't have to pay for their presents?
Exactly.
All right, this has been day 4, number 79.
1 second.
Yeah.
Check out the video, LureNet YouTube, Jigging Spoons, and don't forget about those bomber lures, guys.
They're all up on lurenet.com.
Yes, they are.
We good?
We're good.
All right. This has been day 4, number 79 with the man, Frank Scalish. We'll see you guys next week.